Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here, coming at you with another Dr.Stone review for Manga Chapter 164, titled Z equals 164, Relock On. And let me just say, oops, let me just say that from this chapter, we are going to get a dogfight, a fight in the sky, plane versus plane, the kingdom of science versus Stanley's American colonies, and it's going to be a wild ride. And before we get right into the chapter review, I'd like to ask y'all to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Big Blue Drew 97, as well as leave a like down below and a comment on what you think of this chapter and what you think is going to happen, and so on and so forth. And without the way, let's get started. So, we start off this chapter with a general recap of just the fact that the Perseus has been transformed to an aircraft carrier, and we get a little bit more dialogue from Senku and Risui and how they plan to take off using their catapult as they head into the sky, where we get the cover page of this chapter of both Stanley's fighter jet and the Kingdom of Science fighter jet going into the sky, as we get the title of this chapter, and we see that we have Stanley versus Risui as it's a plane versus plane battle. So, that's really cool. And let me just say, I'm not sure if I've ever really said this about Dr. Stone's artwork, but it's very beautiful. And something that I'm coming to realize is that the author for Dr. Stone, who is Boichi, who has done the entire chapter, or has done art for Oda himself for the One Piece chapter 51, where Zoro fights off Mihawk. So something that I don't think I've ever said before, but when it comes to the artwork, it's always beautiful, and there are a whole lot of just double page spreads of Dr. Stone that just shows off how beautiful this artwork, and this full page spread is just another piece of artwork to go under Boichi's belt when it comes to Dr. Stone. So, on the next page, we have a whole lot of dialogue where we have Genryo, who's basically just explaining like, oh my gosh, Stanley is like in so much trouble because now we have a fire plane. But we have this one random guy. I have no idea who he is. Like, I think this may be the first time I've ever seen him. But this guy, he begins to explain like, yo, we're going to be in trouble because it's an airplane showdown, because if they don't win, we're going to get shot up by Stanley. And then you have Luna, who also chimes into this conversation of like, yeah, just one quick question. Why is Senku in the plane? Why is he not in his sick bed? Why did he decide to go from his bed to a plane? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Senku probably should still be resting. But knowing Senku, that would never happen. But then you also have Yo and Mina, who also are making comments about the dogfight in the sky, especially when it comes to Mina, because we have a scene of Senku with a machine gun. And I know what you may be thinking. Senku with a machine gun? Awesome. Great. Amazing. Something that, you probably always want to see Senku with. But you also have to remember, Senku is the type of person that does not like to use like deadly weapons or use signs for killing. So it's weird to see that he has this machine gun. So there's like, oh my gosh, he has a gun? When did he have time to build that? But then we have Yo, who chimes in as like, that's not a machine gun. The only gun that we have is the one that was on my side, the pistol that I no longer have. And then we see that the pistol that Yo has now belongs to Risui. And even Risui comments on the machine gun that he has. It's like, yeah, that's just a big club, isn't it? And Senku just explains like, yeah, but if Stanley thinks that we have a shotgun, minigun, Gatling gun, yeah, he's not going to fire at us. And Risui's like, well, yeah, you're right, because now here's where the real dogfight begins, as we see that they're just flying in the sky, and then we have Stanley, who's also thinking, like, y'all know that I'm a military trained, like, veteran in this. But alright, I'll play your games, and when I'm done, I'm gonna kill you all, is basically what Stanley says. And then from here, we just get a few just beautiful panels of Senku, Risui, Stanley, and their planes flying, basically having a dogfight in the sky. And like I said, this is very beautiful. All of these panels are just wonderfully drawn, and it's amazing. And even like Genryo is like talking about how beautiful it is. And then we have someone chiming in about how when it comes to air, like fighting, dog fighting in the sky, the main objective is to get behind the opponent. And once you do that, it is considered a win. And the person that brings this up is, I'm not 100% sure on who he is either. And even Mina, who is like, wow, this guy is really knowledgeable of this subject, talks about how he's Magna's artist. I'm going to call him the artist, or M.A. Magna's artist. Yeah, M.A. I think that's a good name for him. So M.A. begins chiming in. Mina's like questioning, like, how does he know all this stuff? And M.A. is like, oh, I drew a military series of books before. So he begins to give a whole lot of commentary. And while he's giving this commentary, we get Risui and Senku, who are just suffering, and how Senku's thinking, man, this is worse than like the worst roller coaster with all of these G-forces. And as soon as he talks about G-forces, something breaks in the plane, and they begin to come to a realization that, yeah, we built this plane in a hurry. So from here, this is where the battle begins to start going through that rising action, where they come to the realization that they will not be able to keep this up for long, so now they have to like make sure that they're able to finish this fight quickly. So they begin to pull up behind Stanley. But as we can see in this one panel, Stanley is behind them, and as M.A. said, whoever wins is the one that can lock on and get behind the other. So now it's time for Risui and Senku to go on the offensive. And how do they do that? Well, they realize that Stanley is an ace fighter pilot, so they have to be real sneaky and they have to be fast with it. So what they do a hard break and turn. And as we can see, that type of maneuver is very harsh on their face. But then we have M.A. giving a explanation of what it is. And basically what it is that with the sharp turn and like the hard break and sharp turn, it forces the person that was behind them to overshoot, which gives the person who made the turn ample amount of time to get right behind them. And that is what Risui does in the plane. And so he's right behind Stanley. He is about to target them, but Stanley isn't having it. And what Stanley does is amazing, because he does it in a way that it appears to be that he vanished. But in actuality, he pulled off his own plane maneuver, which is called the high-speed yo-yo, where he suddenly climbs up. He makes like just a vertical incline, which from what is being explained, this immediate incline slows down, but it allows him to create this turning arc, and the acceleration of the descent allows him to pull up behind the enemy in a direct position to attack. Reason why it's called the high-speed yo-yo is because it acts as a yo-yo. And with this, both Senku and Ryusui are shocked by this. Especially when it comes to Ryusui, he's excited about this. He wants to learn these tricks. He's looking at what Stanley did, and he's like in awe of it. He wants that skill. He wants it to be his, and which makes sense for Ryusui's character, because he wants what he doesn't have. He wants everything, in the same vein of how Senku wants to learn everything. And then from here we get M.A. and Genryu, who are like so scared and thinking like, oh my gosh, he's gonna get behind them, he's gonna shoot them down, what's gonna happen? And Stanley just begins to lock on the enemy. It's a battle of speed. Whoever is able to lock on first wins. But let's not underestimate our Kingdom of Science, our Ryusui, our Senku, because now Ryusui is a little bit more determined. He's like, alright, Billy is about to lock onto them. He's like, your science club is all fun and dandy, but guess what? I'm gonna kill you. But don't worry, when you go to hell, I'll join you a little bit later though. But then we have Risui, who's even more excited. He's even more happy. He's even more determined. He's like, alright, well, I want that skill. I want it so much, so I'm gonna do this. This is something that may not work, but you know what? Screw it! So Risui pulls off a technique that Stanley would not have expected them to do. It is a magnificent skill that may not have been able to be done in the conditions that they are now, because what he does, what Ryusui does, is he goes 90 degrees upward and stops. And apparently we get this double page spread of the plane stopped, which is beautiful, by the way, as we see both Stanley shocked by this, Ryusui and Senku just biting their tongues as we get like the reveal of what happens, that they have gone vertical in like a Cobra-like maneuver. And the thing about this that is shocking is that because the planes are extremely primitive, something like this would normally cause the engine to stall, and they won't be able to like get that engine going enough to get behind Stanley. And this is something that Stanley realizes, but Senku and Ryusui aren't fazed by this, and Stanley is shocked about what happens because he realizes that the plane doesn't stall. And because of that technique, Ryusui and Senku and their plane get right behind him. And it explained why. The reason why he was able to do this was because Senku created castor oil, which for the most part is like high quality engine oil. And even though he does not have the ability to like mass produce it in the same vein as the American colonies, it's quality over quantity. So because they had the better quality oil, even in a primitive engine, they were able to prevent the engine from stalling. And with that out the way, they were able to get the advantage with that maneuver and get behind Stanley once again. Hence the title of this chapter, Relock On. Yay, the title plays a part in the chapter. It's always a fun thing to realize. So yeah, now we have for Ryusui. He's serious now. He takes off his mask like this. Ugh! Throws it away and looks on to Stanley's plane and begins to basically monologue, comparing what he's doing to a video game combo move as he has turned the tables on Stanley, as we get the final pages of this chapter, which is once again a double page spread of Ryusui pulling out the pistol, aiming it at Stanley's plane, locking on, as they basically say checkmate to Stanley as the chapter ends. And let me just say, damn, Ryusui, you looking good. Because I think this is like the first time in a long while that we've seen Ryusui not only have this serious disposition on his face, but as well as the first time that we've seen his hair look like this for a while. Like actually seeing his hair, because for the most part he always has his captain hat on. So this just shows that he's serious, he's taking aim, he's locking on, and he's ready to fire. Boosh! So potentially from what we see at the end of the chapter, most likely at the beginning of the next chapter, we're gonna see Stanley's plane be shot down. Now, is Stanley gonna die? No. Obvious not. But will the Kingdom of Science have the advantage of having one plane versus the American colonies having 0 planes? Yes. I think this chapter is confirming that the Kingdom of Science will have the advantage of the sky, unless that new machine that the Kingdom of America, the American colonies, built is a way to deter people from using air mobility. We still don't know what that is. I thought we would learn more about that this chapter, but maybe next chapter, or maybe within the next few chapters, we'll finally learn what the American colonies have built. And while that is happening, we may also tie back into our own Kingdom of Science buddies who are digging the tunnel, Tsukasa, Taiju, Chrome, see whether or not they finished the tunnel as well. And overall, thought this was a really good chapter. Like, for the most part, I'm starting to realize more and more how beautiful Dr. Stone's artwork is and how very detailed it can be, as well as just the fact that a whole lot of science is going into this, and it's really not complicated to understand. Even something that I didn't expect that we would learn is more aircraft like knowledge and tactics in this chapter. And I thought that was really good, and it was explained in a way that is understandable by even by novices. And just seeing more of like Risui and Senku interacting and having a good time is always a fun thing to have in a Dr. Stone chapter. So overall, really did enjoy it. A few things I would say is probably the introduction of like a few characters that we haven't really seen a whole lot of, and we don't really get like their names or anything. So it's kind of like hard to really get like attached to those characters now, and having one of them like be the main source of exposition about what is happening was a little bit off-putting, but just seeing his enthusiasm and having Ginryu there as well to also pick up the pace was really good. But I think maybe having a different character do that, or maybe establishing that character a little bit earlier, or like having them have a bigger presence would have been even more helpful to make this chapter grow even bigger. And even when it came to like the incident that happened on the plane, you would think that something being broken on the plane would play a bigger factor in it, but it really didn't. So maybe something else, that's something that could have been worked on. But overall, just a lot of just beautiful panels in this chapter. Wonderful story, wonderful interactions between Senku and Risui, and having Risui really become serious and getting the advantage over Stanley makes this a very good chapter. So hopefully you enjoyed this review of Dr. Stone, as I really did enjoy recording it. Leave a comment down below. Leave a comment. What do you think is going to happen next chapter? Do you think we're going to continue from here, or do you think we're going to go back to the other team digging the tunnel? And also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do all of that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in the next video. So, see? Yeah. There you go. Goodbye for now. Gosh, that was weird.